models that we showed of the different sort of auto-oriented, conventional, things you think you find on a strip highway uses transformed. Now, that's the thing to know is that, we're pretty practical, even though we've shown some really far-out things. Recognizing that the market is what it is today, and even just in the best of times, you can only do so much. So we can allow the land to be developed in a more efficient, more intense way, but it won't happen until the market's there, and so, it's not fair just, for the landowners, for instance, to say, well, we've dreamed up this idea, we've changed the zoning, and you've now got to go build all this stuff, and, of course, the outcry would be amazing, and not in a good way. So having to be cognizant of that, really what we want to do is allow for more, for you to do more, in the cases where, parking is an issue, we've talked about, in most places we go, the zoning ordinance requires more parking than the uses need, even if they are completely auto-oriented. So either reducing parking standards, and in many places around the country, they're asking us to actually eliminate parking standards and let the market decide. Who knows better than the owner? How does the zoning ordinance know what they need for parking? But certainly at a minimum, having shared parking, so you're not just limited to your property line, and also doing lowering parking standards. But in the case of Hannaford's, that's a specific case where we'd have to sort out, if what we did is practical. We've shown the development coming into the parking lot. It's also possible to just keep it along the edge, like the McDonald's and the out parcels. It's kind of making that streetscape along up there and not encroaching into it, as the time allows for that. So I think that's a good point. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Brian. Is it possible, since places like that, Savings over there, that plaza is pretty attractive. They've got nice landscaping out front. It feels good when you're coming into town. It's attractive, and they're set back. Working with what's existing right now and looking at your ideas, which are amazing transformations up on the screen, is it realistic to say that you could work with places like existing businesses like Bad Savings and Puppy's and all the places that are currently there, and slow traffic down, get the flow that you want, drop the bridge, and work more with what we've got? Is it possible?
The question is, can we work with the existing condition of what you have, the businesses set back that are nicely landscaped, make some of these other changes, lower the bridge, do the improvements, I guess, within the right of way, The answer is not really, kind of. Maybe, sort of. The reason I say that is, like right now, you guys have the great trail that runs along Route 1, right? At least, certain portions of Route 1. Having that trail, even though it's well landscaped and there are trees and there are businesses that have nice landscaping, doesn't make Route 1 walkable. It makes it possible to walk on Route 1, where before you were crazy if you did. And we've actually seen people walking on the side that doesn't have the trail on it for whatever reason, and then they came down and then they crossed over, so it still happens. It's still, kind of an unsafe condition. The beautification of suburban strips is really the approach that they take in Falmouth. They have beautiful landscaping, lush berms with beautiful ornamental grasses and flowering trees and all of these kinds of things. But in the end, it's just a prettier version of a strip highway. To make it really walkable, you have to have the sense of enclosure. The cars won't go slower simply by signing speed limits slower. Even look at, we normally say, well, you make the travel lanes more narrow, and that'll make them go slower. It does a little bit, but look at Hillside Street as an example. You've got a, bumpy, skinny, no shoulder, Hillside Street with this great rural character, but people still fly on it, And so what happens is, in most cases, when using that as the example still, in the stretches that have houses, like as you're coming into Main Street, the traffic goes much slower than when they're going past the woods, where the new development is going to happen one day. And you can hear it, you know, and then they slow down again when they come to the, you know, kind of the confusion of the school. And so looking at, you know, making those cosmetic improvements, it's one step. The things that happen inside the right-of-way is one step. But that said, the idea is as you look at transforming your zoning ordinance to create, you know, a new change and create a place of character, those places that are there are grandfathered and can stay until such time as they need to, you know, substantially, you know, redo, just like your current zoning ordinance has provisions for that. And so I would say that probably the best answer, the shortest answer is no. It's better than it is now if you did that.
There's
You know.
no way to put those moments you talked about on Hillside Street, if you turn the moments into, say, an area where the traffic is moving down, and let's say in front of that statement, everybody's going in the same direction, have them utilize something like that on Route 1 to slow traffic.
Well, people have to have a reason to want to walk, you know? And so like right now, I mean, they're safe enough on the trail. You know, they're far enough away from the traffic. But when you're walking or jogging on the trail, you know, you probably have your headphones on and you don't have to hear the traffic, and you know, you feel pretty safe as you go down on the trail. But it's not, you know, like I said, you don't really see any of the very many, you know, if you did a survey, the number of destination walkers versus recreation walkers is way out of balance. It's heavily used. I mean, we were watching yesterday out our back window there at Town Hall, and people were just flowing on the trail, their dogs, and you know, all of that stuff. I mean, we know that works, and if you landscape that, it'd be a nicer experience for those recreation walkers. But really, you've got to create a place that people want to be, and we know that, you know, if the setback is too far, just sort of psychology, humans don't feel comfortable. Even a gap in the streetscape. If you have a gap of more than about 30 feet, it starts to give a pedestrian a level of discomfort, so that it diminishes the walkability of a place. So it's all pretty scientific, you know, within a range of you know, how scientific it is. But it's not enough just to beautify. It's better than not doing it though. If you had to pick to do nothing or to beautify, I might say save your money until you can do the real thing. Actually, yes.
Piggybacking on that a little bit, after having done all this, you've got a lot of great ideas, and some are way off, and some may be closer. Did your team feel a sense of that there was some low-hanging fruit? There were certain places where it would be a lot easier or might happen sooner to implement the ideas. That's part A. Part B is, do you get the zoning in place? Do you expect that the businesses and the landowners will lead, or do we expect that the town will lead and drop the bridge and start there and then see the businesses follow?
Sure, that's a great question. So the low-hanging fruit would, you know, he said, you know, are there places where we can really kind of more easily do something than some of the more grandiose visions? And the second part of the question was, would the businesses lead, the landowners in the redevelopment, or would the town, with something like the bridge lowering? When you look at making a change to the zoning, it's pretty great because even though we have big ideas, and that's the thing, you know, we at our own peril of mixing up things, the code, the ordinance revisions, and the plan, show them together and talk about them as, you know, mutually beneficial to one another. Even if you love the ideas in the plan, don't get hung up on it, because what can happen is it can become, you know, we don't like character-based zoning if we don't like the bridge going down, you know, those kind of things. So, but it's interesting when you look at making a change to the ordinance and allowing now the landowners to do more than they could before with their property. That's kind of the lowest hanging fruit. Those who are financially able to do it can just go do it easily, you know, right away, which is great. You know, depending on the finances of the town and all that stuff, some things can happen sooner than others. Some things you can get grants for, etc. But the thing like the bridge, you know, the bridge is maybe in some ways the icing on the cake rather than the catalyst that starts the fire, you know. So I would say, you know, obviously